Hi everybody. Hi, how you doing? It's me, Rob, making a video. I haven't made a video in nearly a year. So I want to make a video about my Zoloft experience. I'm now about 6 months in Zoloft. 6 months in the Zoloft world, and it has been a wild ride. Wipes tear from face. I have to also mention, if you haven't seen all my other videos, and all my other videos, I mean like four, there's like four of them. I'm also on like a cornucopia, a plethora of other antidepressant drugs. Yeah, just to keep me afloat, baby. I'm also on buspar, also known as busparone. I'm also on wellbutrin, also known as bupropion. So I am on a trifecta now. A trifecta of drugs, and I'll let you in on why I'm doing all of them. Let us begin talking about sertraline, Zoloft. I'm taking the very bare minimum amount, 25 milligrams. It's a little green, lime green pill. Looks like key lime green in a weird shape. I was taking 25 milligrams, and I was only taking it once in the morning with all my other drugs, with food. You guys, this drug makes you so sleepy. This drug makes you so sleepy. Like, what? Did I just drink a gallon of NyQuil? Did I just run a marathon through the night? Because I'm so dang tired. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was so tired. And so I was taking it, but people were like, just keep riding it out and eventually the sleepiness will go away. 1 week, tired. 2 weeks, corpse-like. 3 weeks, unconscious, really. I just couldn't get rid of it. And by week 4, I was like, you know what? I think I can make it through the day. I think I can do this, you know? And I was able to. But then people were like, you know what I do? I just switch my morning dose into a night dose. And then I sleep through the night. And I was like, oh, what? You can do that? I'd heard about that earlier, but I didn't do it because I was like, I'll just ride this out. And I'd rather take all my drugs at once. Because if you have to take a bunch of drugs and all through the day, you forget. Like, for instance, I'm like 40 minutes. I should have taken my drug like 40 minutes ago. But I made the switch, took the drug in the night, before bed, went to sleep. Bam, like a brick hitting bricks. Bam, just out for the count. And it was so tired that like getting up was really hard in the morning. Like I would just go like, and I would go to sleep immediately. And then I was like trying to get out of bed. I was like the first, whatever, amoeba coming out of the ocean to become the first land creature. I was like, I like could barely breathe. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was so tired. But I did get the effect that I wanted, which was I could stay awake when it was game time and I was working in the nights, or at least in the middle of the day, afternoon, I was in school and stuff. So it did what I wanted it to do. That was like week 5. I just want to tell you guys, when you take these things, you gotta take them for a long time. You gotta take these drugs for a long time. And the thing about taking these drugs, sometimes they're so awful. Like I remember being in like week 2, exhaustion 24/7, and being like, I feel like I'm 500 years old. I feel like I've been taking this drug for 499 years. And it just seems like you've been taking it forever. But you really have to make it to the 4th, 5th week. Some of these drugs take literally 3 months. They take 3 months, man. It's a long time. They take like a season, you know, to start kicking in. So that's hard. And, you know, a lot of people, they go, yeah, I try to take the antidepressants. Just don't work for me. It's like, how long did you take them? For a night, for a fortnight. It's like, no, you got to take them for a long time. And so that's just how they work. And it's very hard. It's very hard. And if you quit, I don't blame you. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. But when you have problems, like I have problems, you're just like, if there's grass that's greener on the other side of this, I'm gonna I want to frolic in that grass. Like, I can't wait to get on that grass. Even though this bridge is on fire, if I can get to the other side of this, I will be okay. Maybe. So you just stay hopeful. You just have faith. And then hopefully it works for you. And sometimes it doesn't. But you don't know until you're literally in the 3rd month. So hang in there, buckaroo. That was like up to week 4 or 5 that I made that switch, and it was finally working for me, sort of. The story continues. So week 6 through like 8, or no, like, 6 through like 9. Week 6 and 9, almost like another month. This was when I got really like unhinged. So I am a pretty mild-mannered gentleman. I'm a nice person. I'm not like, a pathetic pushover or milquetoast person. I have my strengths, and I'm confident in some of my abilities and whatever. But I'm not like Mr. Aggro. I'm not Mr. Sports Guy. I'm not Mr. Push you over. It was a prank. Ha ha. I'm stronger than you. That's not my personality. I'm a poet. I'm an artist. At least, I don't know. That's what my mama tells me when she puts my pictures on the refrigerator. So I work in a restaurant, and I'm sort of like the night manager at this restaurant. And there are people that sort of work under me that I sort of tell what to do on from occasion to occasion. Sometimes I have to yell things at the kitchen. Sometimes I have to yell things at the staff. And I use the word yell. I mean a raised volume. So this is something that I do, and I never loved telling people what to do. I know some people are like, I love telling people what to do. I don't love telling people what to do. But when it's necessary, and you just do it. But telling people what to do became so easy for me. And saying what was on my mind became so like easy for me. It was almost like too much. Like I was just I was like being bossy McBoss man at work, and to really telling people what to do. I really was able to reel it in a little bit, but I was also irritable. So it kind of was making me into kind of a jerk. And then I got to a point where I wasn't able to control it so much. So, good and bad. I was able to communicate more, but control it less. And so that kind of was not great. That was not great for my relationship. That was not great on a couple occasions at work. Like, for instance, there was one time where I was working the pass. I would do some expo work. So what that means is that food comes to the pass from the kitchen. I organize and I send the food out to the runners. So I'll call a runner, be like, runner, and runner will come and I'll send them the food. I'll be like, table 62, and then they'll send it out, right? So this girl got hired. She was a new hire, and she was good. She was great, pretty, hardworking. That's all I really care about. It's like someone who's hardworking and earnest and like, is like halfway decent with people and is not disrespectful. And so she was doing sort of a good job, but then she was just like, hey, I want to sort of like do what you do. And I was like, oh, that's all good and fine. And then so she kind of like went to my area where I do all my work at the restaurant, right at the pass is essentially a counter where the food arrives. And she started calling runners and organizing the food and sending it out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Yeah, sure, if you want to learn how to do it. And I showed her how to do it, and she was doing it, but she wouldn't stop doing it. And then I have a system, and she's like, I don't like your system, and just started changing stuff, like moving stuff around, moving numbers around, moving my little notepad and stuff. And I was like, you need to go back to the floor and start running food. You can't just be here, standing here doing my job. And like, I kind of went to a bad place with that. Like I kind of was like too snappy. And she was like really put off by that. I don't think that I was like out of line, and I don't think I was too rude, but I was snappier than I was comfortable with in the moment. And so again, it's just another example of like how this stuff kind of changes you a little bit. And so I just made a quick list of pros and cons that I'm going to rattle off because this video is already extremely long. So here are the pros and cons of Zoloft 6 months in. Okay, first pro. I am more even-keeled. I'm more balanced. And I'll give you an example. Zoloft has been really great for me for this specific thing. I'm a nurse in training. I'm in nursing school right now. And part of the nurse training is we do these clinicals. So you're in the hospital working with nurses, working with patients. And I'm a student, so I know like this much. So little. It can be pretty stressful. On top of that, you're doing all your classes, you're doing all your coursework. I'm also working. Was in a relationship at the time, and it's really intense. It was really intense, really difficult. And so I'd be in the hospital, and you have to really get in there with the patients with your stethoscope and take their vitals and do all the things. And if you're someone who has social anxiety, it's difficult. It's difficult. You feel like an imposter. You feel like you're being too invasive. People are uncomfortable. They're not exactly happy to see you. They're not in the best mood. You got to wake them up at like 5 in the morning. You have to wake up so early. Not that early, but pretty early. And so it can be tough. And so I remember just being so anxious, so nervous, so uncomfortable. And so anxious in the very beginning, even that like I was so anxious I couldn't even read. You have to go on the computers and look at people's files and look at their, the medical history. And I remember looking at the computer. I just got this new patient, and my teacher wanted me to give a report on this patient. And I was like trying to collect information. I was looking at the computer, and I could not focus. I couldn't read. I could not read. I was so freaked out, and my hands were shaking. And, if you're a student and you have, if you're a nurse just in general, and you're holding a freaking IM injection, and like your needle in your hand is shaking like this, and you're like holding the person's arm, and you're like trying to, and they're just like, oh God, get me another nurse. You don't want to, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. So, I found that, on top of me just getting more experience and feeling more comfortable in the role, but I found that the Zoloft just allowed me to be like, woo-saw, and just like take it down to a place where I could go a little slower, take my time, really engage the patient, not feel so nervous, speak my mind, ask questions that I need to ask, You gotta really speak up in this role, You're a nurse, you're a nursing student, you gotta ask questions. How else are you gonna learn, And so I was really always uncomfortable with that. And then taking the Zoloft for a while, again, months into it, I found that I was like a lot more balanced, and I was able to do the job. Pro 1. 2 was I could tell people what to do, which is what you gotta do sometimes. That was easy. That's number 2. Number 3 positive effect, which is actually funny because it's like a non-side effect, is I was really worried about SSRIs oftentimes can cause sexual side effects. So I was like, oh no, who wants to add that on the pile of problems? And thank goodness, knock on wood, no pun intended, I did not have any sexual side effects. In fact, it was actually completely positive. I felt like even almost a sexual boost, which people will be like, that's crazy, SSRIs take away your libido. And I didn't find that. At all. So, but probably because I'm taking so little of a dose. That's my secret. Okay, pro number 4. Pro number 4. I also found that I was just less stressed. Nursing school is not easy. It's just not. When you're a nursing student, you tell other nurses that you're a nursing student, they all say the same thing. They're like, hang in there, bro. Hang in there. You got this. What? Okay. And then when you actually get into the schooling, you're like, oh yeah, this is tough. This is really tough. They ask a lot of you, especially if you're taking like an accelerated program and stuff, which I kind of am. And if you're also working or if you have kids, it's not a walk in the park. And so it's very difficult. It's very stressful. But you know what? I found like finals would be coming up. I'd be working a bunch, and I would just be like, you know what? I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty calm. I'm pretty comfortable. Maybe I'm too calm because like, you know, this exam is like worth 20% of my grade. But you know what? I think I'm gonna be okay. I think I'm gonna be all right. So that was my pro number 4. And pro number 5, like, most of the side effects went away. Okay, now the cons list. Oh, the cons list. So first thing is less personality. You have less personality. Now you're like, Robert, you're a dang fool. You mean to tell me you have less personality? What are you, just like constantly bouncing off the walls normally? No. But it's weird because you don't seem different on the outside. And you know what? I'm not like this in real life. I'm not talking a mile a minute in real life like this. I'm really pretty chill once you get to know me, I guess. But like when I'm in a normal situation, like when I'm in a social situation before, I found things funny. I would engage in funny conversations. I'd have my own like jokes. I'd be like, how about that? And pepper a conversation with like little bits of humor. And I find now that I'm not that much that way. Like I'm just there. Like you're having a conversation, I'm there. I'm not like in the conversation. I'm like near the conversation. I'm like conversation adjacent, but I'm not really in the conversation. And I'm trying my darndest, but I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. And it has nothing to do with how interesting that person is. I'm sure like very, very, very interesting, but it's just like, you just don't, you're just a little bit numb. You just are. And I'm only on 25 milligrams of this stuff. So if you're on like 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams, 150, 200, you know, it just, people take truckloads of this stuff. I can only imagine how unbelievably zombie-like that you'll be. But for me, it's a little zombie-like, and I'm not really comfortable with that. And here's another thing that's a con. Before I said decreased anxiety, but also increased anxiety. And you're like, Rob, that doesn't make any sense. It does, because people are anxious in different situations, in different scenarios. And there's different kinds of things like, you know, social anxiety. It can be different from performance anxiety. It can be different from, you know, creative anxiety, like trying to, you know, you feel like you can't create and you feel like you have like mental blocks. Like there's all different kinds of anxiety. And so while I find that I'm less anxious in some situations, I'm more anxious in other situations. It's like completely random. But I'm also anxious, I find myself anxious in social situations because I am not my normal self. So when somebody approaches me, normally I would just, my personality would just kick in, but it doesn't kick in. It's like, it doesn't kick in. And so I'm just like anxious because I'm like, I want the conversation to flow smooth. I want this person to feel comfortable. I want this person to feel seen, you know, and it's just really hard. It's hard to connect, and it makes me anxious. It makes me anxious. If it's someone I don't give a shit about, then it's like whatever. But if it's like my friend, you know, if someone I'm really close with, and I can't turn it on, I get really anxious. So that's its own kind of anxiety. The last con for Zoloft is I haven't been able to make these videos. With the other drugs, I was able to make the videos despite just feeling like awful, just feeling just like gross and bad. Sometimes taking the SSRIs, it's harder to get the creative stuff out of the way because I think you have less access to your normal personality. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it there. Thank you everybody so much. I don't think you made it this far in the video because that would be crazy. And that's my job, to be crazy. So, but if you happen to do it, if you happen to make it this far, congratulations, you crossed the finish line of this mouth marathon. That sounds disgusting. But I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate all that you guys do. It really helps me. It really is lovely to receive all your messages and your comments. It keeps me going. It keeps me going. And I see them and I read them and I read them again. I go over them multiple times. And so thank you for all your support. Like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. You guys are the real champions. Okay. Signing out.